Hey everyone, how are you? We are the Death Chicks, and I feel like we've been like dying a very slow, agonizing death here. It's been really, really tough. And if it hadn't been for Heidi that you see down there in the corner, we probably wouldn't have got started. So wow, we're here. We don't have everything that we normally have going here, like comment tracker. We've got to set that up. Heidi, I don't know if that's something that you can set up from there. I'm glad to try to do that as well. But we wanted to welcome everybody. Thanks for coming over to the old page. If you are at the old page, there's a link there to get to this page. So today what we're going to be talking about is the afterlife. But before we even get started, let me just mention that this is the Death Chicks show. I'm Patty Burgess with Doing Death Differently. It looks like Misty has just joined the call. We may only have her in audio. Misty, are you with us? Okay. There have been some problems up in her neck of the woods. Hey.
Great to hear.
She's here. We've got you in audio, Misty. Now we've got you in living color. So great. Wonderful, wonderful. I did not set up a comment tracker.
We made it.
We did. We did. I didn't set up comment tracker, just so that you know. But if you can go ahead and do that, then maybe we can get some of the comments that are coming in. We'd also love to have some of you come on today. We know we talked to Julie Sager-Nuremberg, who is out there probably listening, and we wanted to invite her to join us as well. But to back up for just a second, we're the Death Chicks. I'm Patty Burgess with DoingDeathDifferently.com, and we've got Misty Lynn with BittersweetBlessing.com. And what we are doing here on Thursdays at 3 o'clock is talking about all the traditionally taboo topics when it comes to death, dying, grief, and loss. And today is no exception, because I would say that the afterlife has a lot of controversy at times swirling around it, whether one believes or doesn't believe or has been influenced by cultural, family, religious types of teachings. It's going to be a great show. So hopefully you can join us, not only to watch what we're talking about and to view, but also to jump on the program as well, because we really want to hear from you. Misty, welcome. You're there. This has been the last hour. It's been really something, hasn't it?
Yes.
I know.
I think this has been our most challenging get on show, but it was really nice to hear one of our viewers, I think it was Jim, I may have the name wrong, but said that he hasn't been on a hangout all week, that hasn't had difficulties, so that makes me feel really great. I'm all for jumping right in. Okay. And let's get into the content. So Patty, there were some great questions raised in the event details. So what would you like to start with?
Well, you know, the title of our show was Do You Believe in an Afterlife? And I guess it's best to start there, and I'll be glad to start. You know, it's interesting how we're influenced, you know, over time, over our lifetime. And I think everything that we just talked about in terms of family, culture, religion, or lack thereof has some sort of effect on what our belief systems are. In fact, if we have time, what I'd even like to do is talk about thoughts, beliefs, and knowings, which are three different things, yet they kind of meld together to create each other. So for me, growing up, I was what I would call a scary kid, that I felt a lot of things and I saw a lot of things that I really couldn't explain. And as a really young child, I felt, I want to say, a connection to who knows, where I might have originally come from. I felt kind of an ethereal connection. And it was certainly not something that I could explain. But I can tell you, and I'm sure if you've been around any kids, as you certainly have since you're a mom, I really believed if I practiced hard enough, I could twitch my nose like Bewitched and my room would be clean. I mean, I practiced and practiced, and I felt that I had these powers. So now I can tell you, I didn't have those powers from DNA. In growing up, my father was, I would say, a pissed off Catholic. He, in the 50s and 60s, he had a really rough time with growing up Catholic. His family was very devout. He was questioning. There were a lot of things going on there. My mother, on the other hand, was pretty much by the time she came out about it, was a confirmed atheist. Although they did take us to, not they, my mother. We went with my dad to Catholic church. We went with my mom to Quaker meeting. So I had this really interesting kind of blend and mix. And as we got older, I really didn't attend church or even think much about this stuff until probably in the mid-'80s, when all of that stuff as a kid got kind of, I would say, shut down, just because I was scared. I would see things, feel things, hear things, but wasn't explained to me other than this is a dream, this is a thought, a fantasy, and my parents were very, very grounded in reality. So about mid-'80s, and I really haven't, it's funny, I haven't shared this with too many people, now I'm going to share it sort of, for all of Google. About the mid-'80s, I started to experience what I first thought was some kind of medical problem. And I would describe it as at night sometimes I would get a very distinct kind of buzzing or vibration in my body. I thought certainly it was a brain tumor or a seizure of some sort. Until one day, a new friend that I met said to me, "Oh, you're probably just having an out-of-body experience." A what? A what? So I took myself to this esoteric bookstore in this dusty little back mall in Atlanta, Georgia, and you would think I was asking for some like kind of contraband, because I went in like eyes averted and asked like, "Do you have any books on kind of under my breath on out-of-body experiences?" And the guy didn't even look up. He was like, aisle 7, top shelf to the left. It was like, really, like this was no big deal. Anyway, apparently what I was experiencing, and have since done a lot of reading, and then I'm going to turn it over, but apparently I was starting to experience this separation, this second state, this second body. Done a lot of reading since. I shut it down 30 years ago because it just seemed too odd, too outside of my understanding. And it's only been within the last several months that it has started to emerge again. So I'm kind of excited about this topic because I'm exploring again. 30 years ago when I read a book by the name of Journeys Out of Body by Robert Monroe, who has started the Monroe Institute in Virginia, which is all about studying this. In fact, the CIA has gone there to practice remote viewing. Who knows what's going on? All I know is that things started to happen to me, and now, being in the death business, I'm pretty curious. I just think it's so interesting that back then I shut it down. Now I'm in this business, and I personally want to have the conversation not ending at death, because my background in hospice, pretty much everything ends at the death. I want to extend that conversation to what happens after, and I'm open. So there's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice. Nice.
What about you?
Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Well, growing up in an Anglican home, but not really strongly practicing, but we're, just the whole Christianity is, there's sin and there's heaven and there's hell, and then you got to make good choices if you want to go to the good place. And then if you had friends with Catholics, which I did, there's purgatory, and that was a whole, unknown to me. But I kind of figured the way I was living, I'd probably end up there somewhere. And it was interesting. I had a friend. My best friend in high school was a Japanese girl. Her mom was Japanese and her father was Caucasian, and she was really she was the nicest girl. Was still a very good friend, and she's still a wonderful woman. Has 4 children and a hobby farm. and a real sweet soul. So I always saw her as very straight-laced and, you know, just good with her studies. And I remember one day where I think we were about grade 4, 5, 6, elementary school, and she brought up this idea of reincarnation, or just that she believed in it. And I remember I was floored. I just thought, and just that she would even think this was possible, you know, Pam, really? And
About how old were
so
you?
that kind of
How old were you at the time?
10 or 11 or 12, something like that. So at that time, my mind kind of did this, oh. And then as I went through the years, I've never really felt that connected to things on Earth. I've always felt that I'm here and the world's going on, and it's a bit of a silly place. It didn't really make much sense to me, and it still most of the time doesn't. But being a human walking on the Earth, I'm part of it, and yes, I get caught up in the drama sometime. But mostly, I feel like I'm just kind of this observer from away, going like, oh, so it's pretty interesting. But recently, and I think it's, well, just, you know, personal development work. I've done some great work with Dr. Jean Houston, and she says, as in the book we're reading, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, that we're the universe, and that the universe lives inside us. So this idea that we're more, and we're everything, and it's just this hugely expanded view from what I grew up with. And over the years, that's been growing stronger and stronger until, and I can't say there was, you know, at this point in time, I changed from a non-believer to a believer, but I definitely believe there's more. And for me, well, actually, it was probably within the last 5 years, doing a lot of self-exploration, and the whole Einstein thing, because I'm loving quantum physics, because quantum physics marries science and religion, science and spirituality, and finally, what people have believed and felt spiritually, the whole ESP thing, and, you know, bending spoons and all that woo-woo stuff that I thought was way out there when I was in grade 4, is now becoming much more accepted. And I love that science is catching up to this. And so, let's see, the big take home for me was just the simple Einstein quote that, you know, energy cannot die. It simply changes form. And that's everyone knows that. So when I think of me, Misty, you know, yes, I have this body, but the spirit energy that's Misty, yeah, the body's going to die, but this won't die. And it's just something that I really feel and sense internally now. Like, no, it's just the body will die, yeah, but then, and I don't fear the whole death, the whole sin, hell, purgatory. I don't fear that anymore, because, and that comes from the idea that God is love, the universal idea, and if God is love, or source, or, you know, God has a little bit of a bad rap because of what religious wars, and what we've done with religion to the extremes, but the essence of God, source, creator, love is I think is love. And love wouldn't do anything bad to us. You know, love's love. So that's my 2 bits on the whole story, how I see things from where I sit.
Now, did you have a kind of a traditional religious upbringing that first started you down a path of considering the afterlife from a religious standpoint, and was there a turning point that changed?
Oh. Yeah. Well, this idea of heaven, I guess I didn't really buy into it, and I still have kind of trouble with the term, because when I was growing up, heaven was like, I don't know, I guess I just didn't feel like I was going to make it there for whatever reason, and it seemed a bit airy-fairy to me, and it seemed like, I don't know, I just didn't really buy into it. So, and I'm not sure where in the path, like the whole heaven-hell spectrum, the whole dish that I was given, this is religion and, you know, sin and judgment, I never really bought into it. It was what was fed in Sunday school, and, you know, go to church on and off throughout the years, but I never really bought it.
So it didn't seem to obviously kind of just resonate with you, where, you know, other very traditional kinds of religions for many do resonate. And, you know, that kind of begs the question, what will, assuming there is an afterlife, what will one see or experience? I think if it's taken within a religious context, there may be one experience, and based on obviously, I haven't had a personal experience like a near-death experience, although I have had the beginnings of or experience of this out-of-body experience, but it's so new and uncontrolled that I can't use that as a reference point right now. But catch me later because I'm practicing, and I'll let you know when I encounter.
You're wanting to go there. I can tell, Patty. You're wanting to jump in.
I'm chomping at the bit. I want to come see you, but I want to do it quick. I don't want to pay for airfare, so I am going out of body. Watch out. I'm coming to you, and I don't want to be. So,
let's make a date. Maybe we'll meet halfway. I'll start practicing. We'll pick a sweet spot on Earth, and off we go.
There we go, and then we'll know. We'll know. But you know, it's interesting because. What's fascinating, even in my own personal life, I happen to be married to a Presbyterian minister, which was really interesting because I re-met Skip, who's my husband, at my 30th high school reunion. And I will say I did a very big kind of gulp when I found out that, you know, when we were doing, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And he said, I'm a Presbyterian minister. For the past 30 years, I was like, oh, wow. And that, oh, wow, meant so many things at the time. And so I remember as we were getting closer and we were talking about making a life together, I was very concerned because I thought, you know, what are the expectations, not only of a preacher's wife and all of that kind of thing, but I knew I didn't come from a very traditional background. It certainly was, you know, I went to Catholic church, I went to Quaker meeting, I had Jewish friends, I have been very interested in Eastern traditions, you know, on and on it goes. I have this beautiful smorgasbord, and I didn't want to give that up if I felt like the person I was marrying had certain expectations. So I will tell you, the best line ever, what he said to me, and he's, you know, very devout in his path, and I am very specific about mine, and yet the beauty is we do respect greatly each other's path. We don't always understand each other's path, and there have been times where, you know, we come at it from different directions, but one of the best things he ever said to me was, because I said, you know, if you're looking for a good Presbyterian girl, like, I don't think I'm it. And he said to me, basically, you know, basically, who am I to say how God's going to show up in your life? Because I had shared with him that I had begun to frame the world with spirit, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, but I couldn't just flip a switch and be Presbyterian if that's what it meant. And to his credit, he said, you know, who am I to say how God's going to show up in your life? So I thought, good answer. I could marry you, which I did. And the next thing you know, we do have divergent paths on that. You know, in terms of the kind of biblical authority that he has and lives under, there's a very definite conversation that Christians can have about the afterlife. And it's very lovely and wonderful. And my understanding, because I don't know it all, I'm not, you know, I'm sort of like the person who knows just a little bit about the Bible. You don't want to ask me too much, but there's, you know, specifics about how to get there as a Christian. And you know, where it changes for me and where it diverts is that, and if you were to ask Skip, he would say, I have these same struggles about who, quote, is going to get to heaven or to the afterlife. And again, to his credit, that's a judgment that's not his. So I bring that out just to share that I think whatever path someone has, most traditions do speak of the afterlife in some way. And yet, then there's people like my mom who just thought, like you were, I think I've mentioned it before, like death was kind of splat like a bug on a rug, that's it. And yet, as she was dying, there she was on her deathbed having what we would call deathbed visions. For a woman who was a professed atheist, though very honoring of everybody else's path, there she was talking animatedly to some things or people that we could not see. So I wish, I kind of wish I could have taken a picture and then met up with her somehow in the ethers and say, Ma, like, wow, what you said and what we were demonstrating were two different things. Hey, who's that just joined us? Who's that?
Is someone here? Oh, hello. Ray.
Hey.
Who is it? It's Ray A. Hi, Ray. Do you have something to share with us? We hope you do. Can you hear us, Ray?
Yeah, I had running on 2 programs at one time.
Oh, okay. So what brings you into this discussion?
Well, I was just interested. I'm a Christian.
Okay.
Have been all my life, but my feeling is I don't see why we're put on this earth. Let's just use the biblical 70 years to go through all the strife and trouble and torment and the good times too, and then when we die, it's just gone. Scientists agree that we have an electrical field running through our body, which I consider the soul, and it's got to go somewhere. So I like to think that's heaven. But that's just my opinion on it. I just wanted to throw that in.
Perfect. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. And what's interesting? I kind of agree with you when you say I like to think it's heaven. Like if it's got to go somewhere, kind of like Myste you were talking about. We know that energy can't be created or destroyed. It just is, and it changes form. So that kind of begs the question too about like thoughts and beliefs and knowing. Like I have beliefs. For example, you may or may not be familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is a gentleman who is in the whole neuroplasticity field, about how we can, change and rewire our brains. He's written a book actually called Breaking the Habit of Being You, which I find fascinating. And he talks about how our thoughts, or I'm sorry, our beliefs are really just thoughts that have been thunk or thanked, or we have thunk them, whatever the correct grammar is, that we have kept thinking them over and over again, and then they solidify into what we now call beliefs. And those beliefs are not necessarily rational, they're not necessarily the same as another person's, but not only do those beliefs solidify from thinking a thought over and over again, but now they create new neural pathways in our brain. And in addition to that, when we continue to think that, it creates a certain cascade of chemicals and hormones. Now, again, I'm not a scientist, but the whole reason to bring this up is how hard it is to change beliefs. So what I like about this forum is we're going to talk about beliefs and differences in thoughts and that kind of thing, but to each his own as far as I'm concerned, because take just, for example, trying to lose weight, why it's so hard to lose weight. Well, for so long, your body, your mind, your neural pathways have been programmed by thoughts that have become beliefs about the way you are. You go to change something, your brain and your body, who now takes it over sort of automatically, when you go to change something and don't feed it that regular stuff, it starts to scream and send a signal like, hey, this is not what we're supposed to do. But once we can override that signal, we can kind of change a belief. And I think in some way, that's what happened to me over time. I had a certain belief, like in spirit, in this connection, in this ability to speak with the great beyond. That was shut down over time and time and time. Well-meaning parents, no doubt, but it was shut down over time, many years. And so I think we do that in general, or this culture, or just living on this planet does that with children.
Yes.
And then,
and it's,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, everything you're saying is really what's happening in the coaching world is just the idea that we can change, and that things that are happening in our life that's not working for us, well, we have the ability to change it, but it's a matter of getting down to the belief level. And the beliefs, it might have been some not rational, not in anything, grounded in anything that your mother or your father or a teacher told you, and you're walking around, you don't even know you believe it. And with the idea of the afterlife, I think this is, intergenerationally for really thousands of years, we've been told that this is the way it is, or whatever religion you're brought up with, we've been told this is the way it is. But what seems to be happening in the world right now, or in the online world, excuse me for a minute, is that we're starting to get different messages. So new messages are coming through about just all these ideas that 30 years ago were just saying, no, that's woo-woo, that's crazy, you can't bend spoons, there's no such thing as ESP, out-of-body experiences, life after death. So I see there's a real big shift in consciousness and global consciousness in what people are believing and what their minds are opening to receive, and I think that's really exciting. And I like what our guest said about the idea of heaven, and I said before I didn't buy into it, but I just want to say that my idea of heaven is probably just like everyone else's idea of heaven. It's, it's bliss, there's no worry, there's no stress, there's no, it's just that unconditional love, and nothing else is there. And it's explained really well in our book. In our book, I'll just do a little share. And reading this book was a super great affirmation for me. I don't expect everyone to have the same experience, but when I read it, I was like, I know this place, and I know this place. So I really feel that I've been there between my lives, and that's, I think, partially why when I'm here walking on Earth, I'm not so attached to it, because some part of me maybe remembers or senses the other side, and it's great. So
that's terrific.
If I could add something, I feel like people's religious beliefs are their own. I've teach youth Sunday school and have for 30 years. We have people that go to our church to believe that the Earth's 6,000 years old, literally, and of course science has proved that wrong. So I think science and religion have to work together, and I think they have worked. But like I said, to think that at death everything ends. One of you are in hospice, right?
Yes, I work at End of Life and Hospice, yes.
Yeah, it is very good to be able to comfort the family and to let them know that there is something else. I believe it is. Those are my beliefs. And I think, again, religion is very personal.
Yes.
I say I'm a Southern Baptist. That doesn't make me any better or worse than a Catholic, a Jew, or a Muslim. It's just my set of beliefs. And my set of beliefs in my church go against what some other people in my church believe. So it's just a personal thing.
Ray, I really, really appreciate you bringing this up, because, this could probably be a whole nother show in total as well. Because, I mean, it's very brave to say what you believe and to allow other people to believe what they believe. And, you know, it's interesting you mentioned in hospice. One of the things that's the big tenet of hospice is that we basically meet the patient where they are. And in hospice, being a volunteer like I am, the training that we do is to make sure that anyone who feels that they cannot serve in a way where they can meet the patient where they are really shouldn't be giving of their time and talents in that way. Because let's say you have you know, a very devout Christian who cares deeply about a person that they're helping in terms of end of life, yet they may be serving a Buddhist who has a very different set of circumstances, a set of beliefs. And so what we find is that we're not in hospice to you know, try to convince anybody of our own particular beliefs, but to support what that person believes. Because think of it, if I believe something very strongly and I'm at end of life and I believe that's where I'm going and that certain set of beliefs is going to get me to my desired place in an afterlife, it would be very, very disturbing to have someone else try to tell me, no, that's not so. And that's why I love what you say, Ray, is that it's very personal. I don't know why, but many people don't feel that way. And I'm talking about all sides, both sides. That it's a personal relationship with your creator, your source, your universe, whatever it is. So I love that you're sharing it from that perspective, and I think that's terrific. It's always scary when somebody comes on and tells their opinion. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to let it fly. So I'm glad you did come on and share. Can't hear you, Myste. Misty, you're muted.
There we go. Here we go.
There you go.
I sense that as we move to a more peaceful society, this is the way we're going. Is in you know, I believe this and that's okay, and you believe that and that's okay, and we can still be together and love each other and respect each other, and maybe we disagree and we agree to disagree, but that's not going to change the fact that I'm a human being and you're a human being, and we're both here honoring our process as we are here to individually experience it. And to me, that's what the you know, you were speaking about in hospice, and when people are dying, meeting them where they're at. But to bring that over to life, you know, in life, to, you know, in conflict resolution, in challenges with our children or with our parents or with our coworkers or our friends or our spouses, meeting people where they're at and respecting that is such a huge lesson. And you know, that's, I think, the lessons of the great teachers, Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad, and it's non-judgment, and I think our guest has brought that forward very nicely.
Absolutely. Mark wanted to share something, but I see his he's muted. No, he's not anymore.
No, I'm not. I'm not mute. No. Hello, everybody. I've been sitting through the ordeal of getting on tonight here with next to Heidi, and I felt half worn out before the show started. I had to sit and recover for a while, but anyway, it's a great conversation. And Patty, I'm impressed with you being so up on what the chemistry of the brain is and what we're learning about that now.
It's amazing. Thank you.
It is. The plasticity of the brain, how it can change and how it can actually influence our body. And now we understand that there are other brains in our body. The heart has a body. A brain. The heart has a body too. Yes. Okay. All right. And
Heidi has a brain.
Yep, she does. Anyway, so, you know, it's really exciting to think about what is really possible when we get out of these straitjackets of the way the world looked 50, 100 years ago, you know, and how we thought about everything.
That's
and
right.
black and white we thought about religion, and how uncommon it was to find anybody who even wasn't a Christian, you know? Wow. I remember in the 60s when I first met my first real live communist in person that you could touch. And he was a nice person. We were friends for many years. You know? But it's just an entirely different world. And this has allowed me to expand and dive into questions which include, what about after death? And when I saw the title of the show tonight, my first reaction is, well, what about before life? What, you know, it's like,
yeah. Is it one and the same?
Yeah, why do we have this thing? First we have life and then we have death, you know? Well, wait a minute. I don't know if that's the actual dichotomy to look at. I think probably we have some kind of spirit activity in all matter, including this complicated mess that we humans are, and that persists. And there's a time when this matter has a spirit and is alive in a way that we can recognize, and we're having this experience now. And then we will stop having that experience, and we'll go back to that other state that we were in, as the Buddhists say, before your mother and father were born. You know,
that is so great.
Yeah, and it's just a continuum. You know, it's a great thing because I don't feel afraid of death when I look at it this way. That this experience called being alive is just an ornament on this whole endless, infinite, unending time.
You're so passionate. I love your passion, Mark.
Oh,
and I want to say also that is a belief, but we have the choice what we believe and what makes us happy.
Exactly. Yes.
And so when you believe that, it's wonderful for you, no? And what you believe, Ray, and what you believe, Myste and Patty, and probably we will. I think so, that's my belief, that we will experience exactly what we believe. When we believe in hell and in horrible things, we will experience that. And when we believe in heaven and nice things, this is my belief. I cannot prove it, but I'm quite convinced.
That is a beautiful segue. Oh, go ahead, Mark, because that's a beautiful segue. I wanted to read something about that from, it's only like a page or two from the Afterlife of Billy Fingers, but go ahead and share.
Oh, just quickly that, and by that same token, an atheist will probably have no experience of anything afterwards. You know, it'll just be.
That could be, and it's going to be interesting because I wonder at what point. Speaking of, you know, my favorite atheist that I know, who was my mom, you know, there she was up until the time she was conscious in our reality. She was very firmly in her own reality as she was dying, but she would pop back in and out, and she would say to me, like, you know, when she would come back to my reality, she would say, where are we? Like, and I know she did not mean the address of the place. I said, Mom, we're on Earth, and she was like, oh, okay. And so, it's so funny because I just knew. I had experienced this with other people at the bedside when they're dying. They're not like, 3660 Bristol Pike or whatever. They were like, I'm like, Earth Ma, Earth Ma. And so at one point she said to me, there's a window and it's open, like, and I asked her how much it was open because this has been also another theme with people at the bedside, with windows and doors, like when it's all the way open, it's sort of when they're gone. And my mom's was open about a third of the way, so I knew she probably had, maybe another day left, and off she went. It was a beautiful metaphor to see where she was in this whole process. And I can definitely share more on that, but I did want to acknowledge Jeannie. Jeannie, how come we're not seeing your lovely face? Jeannie has joined us as well. Maybe she'll tell us why in the thread, or I'm not sure, but she has joined us.
Welcome, Jeannie. And Patty, before you start, I just want to share something that I remembered after Mark speaking. And abracadabra, you know, the abracadabra, the magic words. Well, abracadabra, I think it's ancient Hebrew for I create what I speak.
Wow.
So this is quite fun. So this is, when I'm on air here, I don't know if this is conscious or not, but I'm kind of talking loftier, bigger things, and to me, this is, when I think about this is kind of nice. This is kind of a nice, you know, and it blends with the new quantum physics of what we think becomes things, and what we speak become things, and our beliefs, and it all blends together. But the neuroplasticity of the brain is a big part of our potential for change. So thanks for bringing that up.
That's
Abracadabra.
very good. Abracadabra. And then we said
Oh, it looks like Julie.
and Julie's here. So she finally got in.
The magic is working. Yay!
Talking
Right.
bigger
Great.
things, and to me, this is, when I think about this is kind of nice. Kind of a nice, you know, and it blends with the new quantum physics of what we think becomes things. And
Okay, that was odd.
that all blends together, but the neuroplasticity of the
Oh, you know
brain
what? I think somebody is running. Whoever is listening to our program on this show.
And then we said, oh, it looks like.
Does somebody have our program running? There you go. Ah, it's all good now. This has been the wildest ride.
Good call,
I
Patty.
tell you. It's been wild, but I love, like, chaotic and juicy. This is so good, and there's been such great. Mark, Mark gets the prize for this show for being full of passion and movement like this. It has just been so great to get the prize. So good. Can I go ahead? In fact, Heidi, I wanted to pick up. We just got lost a little bit, but I wanted to pick up from where you talked about, I believe, you know, we believe what, or we see or experience what we believe in, and what we think we're going to see, we probably will. I really think there's something to that. And in this book, there's a section called Schrodinger's cat. And if you remember Schrodinger's cat, I'm going to just sort of really summarize it. The whole idea is that there are many possible realities, and the observer changes what it sees. And so I won't. You can go in. I think it's on page 84 and read more about that. But I wanted to just share a little version of this that talks about so much about the afterlife, because what we believe will probably likely happen. So this is Billy's version. Daddy didn't care for cats. He wanted nothing to do with them. When Daddy looked at a cat, he saw a mean creature with long, sharp claws. And then Billy's talking to his sister, and he says, you look at a cat and see heaven. And the reason I chose this is because when I look at a cat, or animals in general, I see heaven. Do you think that might affect the cat? Quantum usually applies to subatomic particles, not to people. But people are actually vast universes of subatomic particles, and sometimes a shift in perspective makes the particles do a different dance, a leap into a new reality. That's why I'm saying viewpoint is everything. Is exactly what you were saying. You are like so ahead of the time. You're like a precog, Heidi. I'm telling you, you're so good. So viewpoint changes everything. Okay, not everything, but a lot. And so he says to her, I've been standing in the sky for days, impersonating an angel in order to get you to take yourself a little less seriously. Sit at your computer again and write. For me, days are eternity. Wow, eternity, Annie. Think about it. Don't worry, Greta Garbo. I'm not talking about eternal life on Earth. This is different. You want to make a quantum leap. Build a bridge with me between your world and mine. Take a chance. Shift your viewpoint about writing this book and come on this journey with me, because if you could escape the smallness of your mind and live in the dimension of my blessings, if you could dance this dance with me, you would experience something you've barely imagined, something you've dipped your toe into now and again. Instead of a toe, let's try to get you to come up to your ankles, then your knees and your thighs and your waist. Little by little, let's get you to come into the ocean of your divine essence. So what she said, I'm going to stop there, but what she says is that Billy was doing the same thing when he was alive, using his humor to get her to try something new. So there you have it. I thought that was great, us talking about our viewpoints and deciding what is reality based on that. What do you think, Julie?
I think that sounds like a great book. I haven't got my copy yet, but I ordered. I'm gonna get one, and I ordered one for my daughter today. She wants to read it too.
Oh, so good.
I have a little story. It's not my own near-death experience, but it's an after-death experience.
Is this with you and your daddy?
Yeah, you know about it, don't you?
I read about this, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to meet this girl. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I wrote you a little note. We have another Presbyterian connection that we haven't even discussed yet. But anyway, so.
We haven't. Oh my gosh. We are like separated at birth, Julie and I, somehow.
Okay, so just real quickly, you know what? I'm going to have to pop back in here in a second. I have a phone call that is critical that I take. I'm terribly sorry.
Okay, we're hanging on bated breath. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, hurry. So what you thinking, Heidi? Can you hear us, Heidi?
I can, but first I muted Julie because we don't want to hear her call.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to have to pop back in here in a second.
Oh, that's
I have a phone call that is critical that I take. I'm terribly sorry.
okay.
We're sitting on bated breath. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, so
I'll be right.
Yep, there you go.
So I see we have Jean in here now.
Yeah, we have Jean. We're in-laws, Jean and I. Hi, Jean. I think she's muted. Can we hear her? She's muted, I think.
Yeah, she must unmute herself.
Jean,
Sorry.
Am I good?
You're good. You're good, but whoever is listening to Jeannie, if you're listening to us on your computer, you need to pause that.
We're in-laws, Jean and I.
Okay, but I can't see you on my phone, though. Okay.
Hey, Jean. How are
there
you?
We go.
Good. Am I alive?
It's double. It's double.
We can hardly see you. If you can pull your screen down a little bit.
Okay.
Beautiful.
See you later.
There we go. You got it.
So.
Okay. I had a couple of things perhaps to share.
Wonderful.
Please.
Okay. I've had several encounters, if we can say, with God and with Jesus and with after death or afterlife, however you want to say that. And they're very personal and very powerful. And I have not shared that with many people. But this is such a great venue to share things. And so you need to stop me if I get too long-winded, please. One of them was very striking when I had a niece who was stabbed to death by her boyfriend. And I reviewed that process over and over and over and over. What was it like when she died? How did she die? How much pain was she in? It must have been horrible. And I do get emotional about this. I dreamt one night that I saw her, and she was dressed in white, and behind her were just huge flames of fire. And a voice that to me would be God, deep voice, very calm, said, "She's okay, she's with me."
Beautiful.
And I still think about that a lot. But I continued to perhaps obsess about her death. And what were those moments like when she died? And I kind of went on a retreat by myself, but I just thought about her all the time. And I was on Rodeo Drive in California, and I came face to face with Jesus. There was this man who was my vision of how Jesus would look, face to face, just right in my face, crossing the street. And he just kind of jumped right in my face, and he said, "You've seen the signs. Get on with your life. Look at the signs." And I looked at the signs, and it's like, I think the sign said walk. You know, I was walking across the street, and I looked around, and he was just gone. And it was a crowd of people, but he was just gone. And so I thought about that, and it's like, what did he mean? Look at the signs. You've seen the signs. And then I went back, and it's like, I saw her in the dream, and she was okay. God said, "She's with me." At the trial or the hearing of the guy who killed her, my sister-in-law was so composed, which is not, I could not imagine being the mother of a child and being as composed as she was. And suddenly there was just this rush of warm feeling of her, well, first of all, her husband killed himself, the father of my niece, who's my husband's brother, killed himself over this whole thing, just of sadness. And when I had that warm feeling, it was like both my niece and my brother-in-law are here, and they're helping her say what needs to be said. And it was just very clear to me that they were there helping her confront this man who killed her daughter, who took both their lives, essentially.
Wow.
And just so many powerful moments like that, you know, I have to accept it.
Absolutely. Ginny, you know what? First of all, let me honor you for the courage to say that, because I can tell it's hugely emotional, and when it is that close to you, you know, you want to be strong for others, but you have these powerful experiences yourself, and it is so lovely that you shared that, because to me, that shows that in the face of unspeakable devastation and sadness, that there's something, whatever the belief system is, that upholds us all. And to get a message that your niece was okay, and to get it that clearly, you clearly seem to have some connection to the divine as well. So thank you for sharing that. Very powerful. Very powerful.
There was one other instance in my life that was real powerful, but I don't know if you want to do that now or another time.
Well, hang in there, because I know Julie was going to share with us. Let's see what kind of our timing is, and we definitely do want to hear about it, and we're definitely going to have more forums like this to jump in. This is so wonderful. But let's kind of go over to Julie now, if that's okay. Julie, share with us your story.
Thank you for your patience with me. Sorry about that earlier. I had a very special mystical dream, is all I know to call it, about 3 or 4 nights after Father passed away. I happened to be privileged to be with my dad in his moments of transitioning, and that was a very special time. And he was at peace, and I was also experiencing peace around the manner in which he was at his time of death. The fact that he had been able to communicate with each of the people that were very close to him, and so all of that was as good as it could be. So I was not in distress about this event, although I was deeply grieving. And so I'm just kind of setting the stage for what happened. I had never had any conscious thoughts about the next dimension or afterlife in any particular way. I hadn't been considering that actively. But in my dream, this particular night, I was visited by, all I know to call it is my father's light body. He was a light essence. I was very aware that it was him that in my dream, and I joined him as my own light body. And we romped through the galaxies, and we romped into the subatomic realms, and we had a journey together that we united as one energy. We could split apart into a gazillion bits. We could essentially be inside, outside. We could be in any perspective that we wanted to be in, and we just played. We went on just a total joyride through whatever this was. It was kind of, I saw things that were just incredible, and I suppose there are things like the Hubble telescope sees or the electron microscope may see. But the thing that really stayed with me and eventually woke me from this dream was such an intensity of joy that I literally felt if I didn't wake up in that moment, I would not survive it. I was going to burst apart from the joy that I felt in every fiber of my being. I was just vibrating with this blissful feeling, and I consider it a gift that he gave me, or that I concocted in whatever part of my subconscious. I don't really judge it. I just enjoy the fact that I experienced that, and sometimes I can go back to that feeling in a not in the sense that I felt it that day, but in a slight sense, and it's very therapeutic. So,
yes, that's,
you know, was that heaven? You know, I think,
yeah.
Heaven's right here and now,
Julie,
is my belief.
yeah. Julie, that's really amazing the way you describe that, and I think you're going to love when you read Annie Kagan's book, because Billy talks a lot, like he really explains, when he's on the other side, he really goes into depth in explaining just what he's experiencing. And what you just described is very, very much similar to what he's experiencing. there's one little passage I'll read that connects really good. So he was just talking with his sister about basically what you've been explaining, this vastness, this joy, this bliss, this being part of the universe and being part of it, but it is part of him. And just before he leaves, Annie, he says, "Are we the universe? Google it." So it's funny because throughout the book he sends her ways to kind of confirm actually happening because she's very skeptical. So Annie says, when I searched "Are we the universe" on Google, a YouTube video of the late astronomer Carl Sagan came up. In it, he describes how we're all made of star stuff, how billions of years ago the elements of our bodies were formed from stars, and how our desire to explore, a longing to return to our celestial origins. Whoa! That's exactly what Billy was talking about. And it's not only Billy who's made of the cosmos. We are all literally made from the stars. Becoming the universe isn't poetic magic. It's grounded in scientific fact. So there it is. Thank you for sharing that. And this is the stuff. This is the reason why I think part of the big reason why I'm here on this show and doing this program is because it's not so much, it is talking about death, but why we need to talk about death is because many people fear it. And there's so many accounts now that are showing that we don't need to fear it because it's the body ending. And my deepest desire is that people will feel okay with this, and that even if you've lost someone in a tragic way, as Jeannie shared with us, or you know, if you've lost someone and you haven't made amends with them, like, no, it's okay, because where they are now is in a good place. And honestly, I haven't come across one person that said, oh, I had a NDE or had an experience and it was horrible. There was fire and I was being tortured. So I haven't come across one thing like that. So all the things we're hearing is that it's good and it's okay, and we don't have anything to fear. I really want to thank everyone for jumping in. This has been a really fun show, Patty, and I think we'll have to do this again more often. It's feeling nice to get this interaction and this open sharing, the conversations, which is what we're all about.
Yes, and again, I want to acknowledge every one of you and Jeannie again for sharing what seemed to be emotional, and maybe there's not a lot of people that want to always hear or visit that kind of thing where you are. So I feel so blessed that we're a forum where we can talk about things that maybe we say the rest of the world won't talk about, but with Google, we're like out to the world. So like it or not, we are projecting all of this, and maybe we're just a tiny microcosm of like mass consciousness that is changing some things, and changing it to whatever is most comforting for the one. So anybody else have any last things to add before we wrap up? We got started late, so sorry. Comment tracker, I guess, didn't happen, so yikes. Oh well, we'll do better next time. Well, hopefully there'll be a start button there, Heidi. Oh gosh, help us and thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Yes, Ray, just wonderful to have you, and thanks for your very poignant and important thoughts, and we really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. Pop back and see us, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Stay passionate, Mark. I want to talk to you next time about neuroplasticity. That's going to be a really great conversation.
Okay, don't put me to sleep with it now.
Okay. No, I'll talk about hormones. That won't put us to sleep.
There's some good stories about hormones.
There's a fun movie out there. It's a fun movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And it talks about the brain and our addiction to our emotions and quantum physics, but it's a very fun, woven into a fun story. It's one of my favorite movies, and woven in with interviews from scientists. So what the bleep do we know? Great movie. Go check it out. It's one of those movies that I was walking through life, and then I saw this movie, and everything I kind of felt or suspected, it was just confirmed. So my mind went from like this to like, wow, what I'm sensing or what I felt but had no words to describe is actually true, and you know, it's being proven by science. And that was a movie, that was a big life changer or life affirmer for me. It didn't really change it, but it really affirmed what I just naturally, intuitively was sensing.
That's so great. I love that movie.
I love it when my head goes blah. Yes.
Oh wait, speaking of movies, there's one really great movie too, hilarious, funny. If you like Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks, it's called Defending Your Life, and it's about what he believes. I think he wrote it too. It's about getting to the afterlife and meeting this girl, Meryl Streep, who's also died. And she's been so good that she gets the hotel afterlife that has the turn-down service and the mints. And he's got the hotel that's like Motel 6. It's hilarious. And they have to go in and defend their life, but it's a really great message. Defending your life. So funny.
Great.
Good.
You want to wrap us up, Myste?
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. This has been really amazing. You know, what started out as just the Google gremlins out in full force. I won't go into details, but it was coming at us in all different ways, and we finally got on air. Thank you very much, Heidi, for being there. We have a great community of Google supporters who are always there for us, and lucky enough, on some wood here, we're making it happen, discussions, and after all the troubles, look what happened today. We have this great forum, and this is the first time we've done this, Patty, and it really worked out well. I'm so thankful for our guests and for our supporters, and I hope that everyone watching has gained whatever they need from this. There's been a lot of content. It's been here, there, and everywhere, but we really hope that you found some take-homes and you're walking away from this with a little more zep in your step and feeling a little bit lighter. And, you know, just like it's been said on the show, just enjoy life more. And Annie's brother was trying to get her to, through the clouds, say, hey, it's okay, just enjoy it. The other side's coming soon, and you'll be there eventually, so while you're down there on Earth, just do your best to enjoy it. So thanks, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We got a great guest lined up, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Take care.